We've got tips and recipes for healthy living. So for fun and inspiration, come and join us in the raw food world.
Welcome everybody, this is Matt Monarch with the Raw Food World TV show. And yes, I've been a bit angry lately, and I'm getting even more angry because what you're about to witness is something that's pretty prevalent all around the world. We have a couple of our friends here that I'd like to introduce you to. Thanks for coming on.
Hey.
What are your names?
Donna.
And Richie.
And
And this is Emily Joy.
how old is Emily Joy?
Emily Joy's just turned 2.
2. And you guys are from?
The UK.
The UK. And you magically, somehow, in the UK, had a natural birth, fighting much opposition. Maybe you could tell us a little bit about it.
Yeah, we did. We had a wonderful natural home birth in a pool. It was the dream birth that Donna wanted. But yeah, we had a lot of opposition along the way. A lot of things that happened that made it a challenge. Consultants kind of scaremongering because as soon as they hear about the diet, as soon as they hear about how you eat and it's different and they don't understand what it is, then it's the baby isn't growing like it should, and we have to monitor you weekly or daily.
Right.
And even towards the end, we were told they'd have to get Emily out early, and as it transpired, none of that was actually true. In fact, she was perfectly healthy, and every time she was monitored, she was...
And 3 pounds heavier than what they
3
estimated.
pounds heavier than what she estimated 3 days earlier than she was born. So, yeah, we had a tough time because it wasn't so much a battle, but we were getting a lot of guilting about the decisions we were making.
Right.
We were researching and we were learning and more, and everything they said, we kind of went, okay, is this true? Is this right? Is this... And we always discovered that what we were doing was probably the best way.
So they a few times they said that you were underweight.
Yeah. I had a too low BMI and I wasn't putting on enough weight. At 5 months I was a size 8 and just had a huge football. And I was monitored daily and weekly with scans and things to check on Emily's growth because I wasn't putting on the weight that generally most other pregnant women do.
And because you have a healthy diet and it's pretty much just like baby weight.
Yeah.
And how many times did they tell you that you needed antibiotics, and how did you deal with that? And
Was it
4 times, I think. Yeah.
and what were the reasons?
They would check. They do the water test, check, and if there was something they're not used to seeing, like they described it as there's a protein in there we're not used to seeing.
From like a green juice or something?
Yeah, we'd had a big green juice, and they'd say we need to give you antibiotics precautionary because there's probably an infection.
The one time that I went to hospital without you, they did a routine test and completely freaked out because there was protein. I just had a really big carrot juice and I tried to explain this to them. They weren't up for it, and they told me I had preeclampsia and would have to deliver Emily that day, and that was 2 months early.
Oh my God!
Rich was away in London, his mum and dad were away as well, and I phoned them both freaking out. They're going to take my baby out and she's fine. And they tried to give me antibiotics, and I was kept in most of the day until they determined, after doing lots more tests, that it was indeed the carrot juice.
Did you ever believe them? Like got scared or?
Oh brother, she was, every time we left an office, she was really scared.
Right.
And I had to kind of put things in context because I could,
The language they use is terrifying. When you're sitting there and a doctor says, right, you're not putting on enough weight, we've got to get this baby out. That's frightening. And then you get like a reassuring squeeze, and as soon as you get out, you get Rich going, you do realise that's because you're not eating a ton of chocolate and things.
They point you to a graph which shows normal development. So what they mean is average development of a baby's growth. And Emily didn't quite fit in there. She wasn't really far out, but she didn't quite fit in with that. And as soon as they showed me this and they're saying this is the average, I'm thinking, yeah, but these guys are eating all of that stuff you're selling in the vending machines in the waiting room, and perhaps that isn't the benchmark. Perhaps the mark we should be looking at is
somebody craving apples.
Somebody craving apples and avocados and, you know, and bananas and pumpkin seeds.
I ate a lot of pumpkin seeds.
But that was the mark, because it wasn't, because what was happening didn't fit in with this graph that was based on people that are gonna come into the world pretty unhealthy and have, you know, an unhealthy life with all this sickness and disease that's going on. It's kind of a craziness, you know, because why are we looking at these people? Why is this the ideal we should be following? And as it turns out, Emily's growth was fine. She was born 7'9". You know, she was a big, healthy girl.
Even though 3 days before they said she'd be 5.
Yeah, they said she wouldn't make it to 5.
3 days before she was born, they said she was going to be 5 pounds.
Yeah.
They were hoping that she'd be 5 pounds.
Because you know what, Matt? They couldn't at that point say they were wrong, and that's when we saw a consultant after he said 2 weeks before we're going to have to get Emily out of there, and then when she was monitored every day, and they say if she hasn't moved 10 times in a day, it's to start worrying. She moved 10 times in 10 seconds. She was so active, and so we'd get to the midwives.
That I saw were like, I don't know what the consultant's worried about. I've never seen a baby move this much. He said, what are you feeding this baby? He said, is it sugar? I was like, no, it's apples. A lot of apples. They just couldn't believe how active she
so
was.
many midwives actually said it's the healthiest baby they've ever seen when they monitored, when we got to the midwives.
So when the baby was born, what were the reaction? Like, was the baby healthy? Like, what was?
This is cool, isn't it?
Yeah.
Our GP came round about an hour after she was born, to 2 hours after.
Yeah, it was a few hours, I think.
And
What's a GP? A doctor?
Yeah.
The doctor.
Yeah.
The jerk
Our
off.
So,
doctor.
like our local doctor, and he came round and he thought that Emily was a week old because of her colour. He thought that he'd been given the information that she'd been born late, and he was just like, I've never seen a baby with this colour before.
I've never seen a baby like this.
Is she weeks old? I was like, she's hours old, and he just couldn't believe it. And
the midwife was saying we were at home with the pool, but we had a midwife there, and she looked at Emily, and Emily's alert. She's looking just straight into her eyes, and she looked at her and she goes, "This baby's perfect." You know, absolutely, because they're not used to seeing really like healthy babies as they should be. They're not used to seeing them.
Right.
You know.
And she couldn't believe her eyes were open and alert, and she was smiling. She said, "Babies don't smile when they're born."
She was happy.
She couldn't.
Yeah.
She just couldn't believe it. It was incredible.
Yes. It was a challenging time, but it was a great time, Matt. And look,
Do you remember, even in labour, the midwife that came around before was like, "You're not healthy enough. We have to take you to hospital. You can't give birth at home."
Yeah.
And
Crazy.
I was like, "Nope, I'm staying here."
I have to admire, you were telling me earlier, you kind of worked with the people, the consultants, the doctors, instead of like fighting with them to where they could actually take your baby away. Instead, you worked with them and kind of dodged the vaccinations, dodged all the antibiotics somehow. Maybe you could talk about that a little bit.
Well, you know, there was no point in fighting against people that can cause problems for you, you know. And also we understood that they actually felt they were coming from a well-intentioned place. They felt that what they had to say was the best thing for your child. We can lose that. We can lose the awareness of that sometimes. But we remembered that, and so we communicated with them about all the information, where we were coming from, and you know, because of that, they ended up really admiring what we were doing. We had the health visitors ended up taking book recommendations, and Donna was asked to. Eventually, she was asked to facilitate breastfeeding support in our community. Because we didn't fight them, we communicated with them.
How'd you dodge the antibiotics 4 times in a row?
Luckily, we saw the same doctor a couple of times. And do you remember the blonde lady? I think her name was Jane. Really nice doctor. At one point, they insisted on keeping me in overnight to monitor me. And my waters broke a little bit early, but just a little. And they insisted I needed antibiotics. And I just said to her, why don't we wait till tomorrow and see how I am tomorrow? Because obviously it'd be better to wait and see. And she was just so...
Sorry. Sorry.
We found, I mean, even with the other doctors, as soon as it was always the same sentence, we have to give precautionary antibiotics. And we say, okay, well, you know, why is that? And are there any other options? How long will tests take? And we found though, as soon as we asked those questions respectfully, we were actually, these guys are on autopilot. They're not used to that happening. People just, okay, I've got to do what you say. And but as soon as a lot of these doctors, they want to hear it. And as soon as you say, oh, you know, what are our options, they then sit down and they give you all the information you're asking for. That was our experience.
Yeah.
Right.
And so it was okay. It was mutually respectful, because they're doing what they've got to do. You know, they've got to offer these things, because what if they don't?
Right.
You know, that's where the individuals are coming from.
Right.
You know, and so yeah, just having a respect for the fact that they think they're doing the best for you, and it's their job to do that in that way, was really helpful. And so we dodged it by every time asking for tests, and every time there was no infection present or anything they thought was going on, they were afraid might be happening.
Okay, what about vaccinations? Didn't they ask for like how many vaccinations?
I think was it 16 vaccinations
16
in the first?
in the first, is it 8 or 12 weeks?
Yeah.
How'd you avoid 16 vaccinations from the doctors who are at your house saying we're going to take your baby away if you don't do this?
Well, brother, again, we come from a place of, look, we're not going to do that, and this is information we're coming from. You know, we're going to really naturally nurture the immune system of our baby, and the you know, something was really interesting. Our doctor actually said to us, when we come to him with this in this way, because it's just routine. Everyone gets all these vaccinations. You're going to get them all done. As soon as we said, oh, we're not keen, and this is why, he said, well, actually, this is his words, the only vaccination I recommend you get is meningitis. So out of all those 16, that was the only one he actually personally recommended you get.
And just having it the once, not the booster, because you have a lot and then you have another lot. And he just said, just have it the once.
Yeah. And so I looked into meningitis, what it was, and it seemed that as long as we had healthy bacteria existing in our mouth, and that's how this stuff starts, then we're cool. And you know, we don't have antibacterials in our house. She drops stuff, she picks it up, puts it in her mouth. That's how she learns the bacterial presence of the outside world, takes it inside and creates that harmony. You know, so that again, it was constant communication, man. I think the moment that you start to try and fight, I think perhaps you can have some problems.
Right.
But sharing information is wonderful, because then they've got it.
Yeah.
You know, and like I said, these guys went away. What book should I read? And,
Right.
you know,
That was a student midwife, wasn't it?
Mm.
She came in and we had one midwife who, she was a bit, oh, I'm not quite sure and you should be doing this. And this other midwife was just, so what books have you been reading?
yeah.
And got Rich to write them all down, and she was a student midwife that was accompanying the other midwife. It's awesome.
Wow.
We were so chuffed. She's like, look, we're going away with a recommendation.
Wow.
We found eventually we kind of want it because of the example, because once she's born and they're looking, and 2 years now, and she's been sick like one day ever, and she was walking at 7 months, which is crazy. The health, you know, she's the healthiest kid we've ever known, and so they couldn't not, you know, take that on board. They couldn't not think of it as something,
Right.
you know.
Wow.
So eventually we got a lot of.
When we had a 7 to 9 month check, the health visitor was just, she's just walked in. How old is she?
Yeah,
She's
7
7.5 months. And we were like, she's like, how long has she been walking for? A few weeks.
I mean,
Oh, and we haven't heard from them since.
I mean, that's right. Yeah,
They're supposed to have like checks like every 6 months, and we haven't heard from them since, just because of
Yes,
how
they
well
can.
she was doing. It's
Wow.
really
I mean,
good.
you know, you can't say that these children are missing out on something if they're so healthy,
Right.
and they're developing so well and so fast.
Do you guys like have any websites or anything like that?
We've got the Facebook, you know, you can check Richie A. Watson.
Richie A. Watson?
Yeah,
Yeah.
you've got
Cool.
your Mothering Life page actually.
Yeah, I've just
That's
recently
the
set up a page called Mothering Life and on Facebook, and I'll be sharing lots more stuff like this. So
Cool. So just type in Mothering Life in Facebook and we'll find you.
yeah,
Cool. What's your Facebook name? Do you have one also?
yeah. My personal profile is Donna Marie Watson.
Cool.
So yeah,
Awesome. Thanks for coming on.
you're welcome.
All right. So we got Dawn over there.
Angela Stokes Monarch and Araya Berry Monarch, and I want to say I think these guys are absolute heroes for doing what they've been doing in the UK. When Donna just came in and started telling me all the crazy stuff about how nobody breastfeeds there, she's the only person she knows who's breastfeeding. She's helping the women in her community with a birth pool, so the birth pool that they use. She's helping other people to use that, and everything that they went through, man, it's amazing. So kudos to these guys for doing what they did where they did.
Awesome. And Matt Monarch. Ridiculous. This is crazy. You know, I mean, like, what's happening in this world is just ridiculous. All right, we'll talk about that another time. And we'll see you next time at the Raw Food World TV show.
Thanks for joining us. We'll see you again at the Raw Food World.